Okay. You're live. Yay. All right. Oh my gosh. Took an act of Congress, but we're live. This is my first YouTube live. For all of you coming on to join, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. I usually pre-film things, but with a new season comes new growth for you and for me. So today I am going to share ideas of how to get started with this process. So if you already know me and you've already submitted your portfolio, this isn't something you'll want to watch, but you want to go get your friends to watch this, especially your friends that you know are national board certified teachers. They just don't have the certification yet. You want them to see this video. You want them to know that it really is easy peasy, lemon squeezy once you understand what they want from you. So I'm going to be putting together a staircase of where to go, what to do first, second, third. And I'm going to show you kind of some decisions that you need to make along the way. And then I'll do impromptu Q&A at the end. So if you have questions, be ready to ask them and I'll be ready to answer. I am going to share my screen if I can figure out how to share my screen. I'm on a new thing here. Window. Yeah, I figured it out. It's amazing. Okay, so this is a staircase I created for you. And we're going to, obviously the way we walk stairs is from the bottom up, if we're at the bottom, and we're going to go from the bottom up here. I want you to know, if you have no idea what National Board Certification is, or you're just stumped as to what to do, the first place to go is www.nbpts.org. And once you get there, at the top, you're going to choose certification. And under certification, you're going to choose Candidate Center. In that tab, you'll find a first steps video. Watch that video from the National Board. It's about a 5-minute, very important video for you to really get some background information of what's on that page for you that you need. Then you'll have to choose your certificate area. Your certificate area is going to be both the subject that you teach and it's going to be the age band that you teach. Sometimes it's going to be a way larger age band than what you teach. For example, if you are a special education teacher and you teach, little people, you're going to have a certification that goes all the way to 21 years of age. Sometimes you'll have middle school teachers who have what we call EA, early adolescence. They're 11 to 15-year-olds, but they really only teach 14-year-olds. Or high school teachers who teach mostly 14-year-olds, but high school AYA, adolescent young adulthood, is an older band, and they want to be in the younger band. So there are a lot of things you need to figure out when it comes to the certificate area that you would be in. And that's your second step of getting started with the process, is just to know, where do you land in the National Board process as far as the certificate. And the certificate area also is really important, that you have a good grasp or have the ability during your jaunt to certification, have that ability to gain the content necessary in that certificate area. So if you are, for example, a 5th grade math teacher, and people say, oh, you should do middle childhood generalist, MC Gen, but you really don't have a lot of knowledge around ELA, writing, science, social studies for that age band of students 8 to 12, then you really should probably look into doing the middle school math certification if you have a lot more math content knowledge. So there's several things that need to be worked out there with choose the certificate area, but we can help you with that for sure. All right, after you choose your certificate area, then on that same tab, Candidate Center, you download and read through the certificate, your certificate area NBPTS standards. And they're there for free. You don't have to pay anything to figure out whether you want to go through this process. Nothing. It's all there at your fingertips on the Candidate Center tab at nbpts.org. And from there, once you've gone through reading your NBPTS standards, you're going to look at the other thing that's on that page, which is your 4 component direction guides. And they also have your rubrics in them. And you would read through each one of them: component 1, component 2, component 3, and component 4. And see, this is what this process is about. It's going to sound a lot like a foreign language to you. You haven't done it before. You're going to think, wow, this is really serious. There's so many things going on here. Can I ever figure this out? But you can. I promise. You can definitely figure it out. The first thing that we have to do as candidates is just be curious. Be curious about what's in our standards. For our certificate area. Be curious about what these certificate portfolio guides and rubrics say. And then once we have done that work, that reading work, then we will know pretty much what our strengths and our weaknesses are to the process. So you have to know where you are in the process. Are you really low in being able to meet the standards at which the national board says you should be teaching? Or are you pretty much right where you should be? You just need to hone in on a few things. And finally, you really need to work together with others in some way, whether that be in a local cohort in your district, whether that be in a state cohort in your state, whether that be in an online group that you have, or getting into Facebook groups and then branching off and getting smaller groups there. At TraceyBryantStuckey.com, I have something called the Think Tank, and it is a live cohort where we meet every other week with a group, and I answer your questions, and we dive deep into scenarios that you present. And I find that it's oftentimes you might not have a question, but the questions of others teach you way more than any question you could ever ask. So that's a real big part of not working alone and doing this together. Now, the think tanks over at TraceyBryantStuckey.com, you have to be in one of my courses, my C3 or my C4 course, to be in the think tank that matches. But it's worth its weight in gold for sure. I don't know if there's anybody on listening that would say that, but hopefully there would be a lot of love for that right now. All right, so go over to TraceyBryantStuckey.com. Go over to my YouTube channel. You're seeing me live now. Go over to my YouTube channel. See all the videos where I'm helping to break this down even more for you. And it will make it much more clear. So what are the decisions that you guys have to make? These, when I think about the national board process from out of the starting gate, I think of it like a tree sprouting from seedlings to this beautiful blooming tree that's bearing fruit for us. Notice at the very bottom here, I've got the words 5 core propositions. Those are also found on the Candidate Center page that I just sent you to with NBPTS.org. So those 5 core propositions are what binds together the National Board Certification process for teachers. And from those 5 core propositions, the NBPTS standards were developed for your area. So notice the trunk of this tree is holding everything strong, with the roots being the 5 core propositions. So if we read the 5 core propositions and then we read our certificate area standards, then we're starting to realize, oh, okay, these are teacher standards. This is what I should be doing as a teacher. This isn't learner standards like Common Core or your state learning targets. So this is what I should be doing. Nobody's really ever suggested what I should be doing as a teacher, except for, of course, when you're going through your first 3 years, I guess, of adept or whatever it is you go through. So here, what we have is we've got 4 components that come that were developed to test your ability to meet those national board standards. Now, each one of these components has its own rubric, and you all have this component for your area, your certificate area. They are very similar, super similar in C3 and C4 because you're doing the same types of things. Um, but in C1 and C2, they're very specific to your certificate area. So again, we're moving up from the roots to the trunk. And now let's stay low on the tree here. And I always suggest we start with component 4. So I'm branching off to the right of the tree. And I know that in this component 4, I'm going to be doing some unit planning where assessment drives instruction. I'm going to have to be a master of formative, summative, and self-assessment. I'm going to have to show and prove collaboration to find and meet needs of myself and my students. And I'm going to be providing 10 plus pages of data and evidence that I'm disaggregating. I'm going to be super diagnostic in component 4. It's going to give me a lot of information about who I am as a teacher and who my students are as learners. And I'm going to grow big in component 4. It's worth 15% of the process, of the score of the process, 15%, but it's like your breeding ground. Let's think of it as the nursery, like the nursery in a salt marsh, right? That's what the salt marsh is for animals to move out into the big, wide blue ocean. So that component 4, even though it's probably the hardest one, it will make you into a national board certified teacher. So when we move to the left of the trunk to component 3, after doing component 4, we now sound like an NBCT, we look like an NBCT, we think like an NBCT, we give feedback like an NBCT, we collect data like an NBCT, we look, sound, feel everything about us on 2 15-minute videos screams NBCT, National Board Certified Teacher. We don't look like we have no idea what we're doing in the national board process because C4 has turned us into one. We are engaging our students and giving rich feedback that is moving kids through goals-based instruction that's sequenced strong and well with lots of rigor. We see and feel classroom communities and a learning environment that has both you as a facilitator and a leader, so that the kids are actually constructing knowledge with each other as well. That is 30% of your score. So you do not want to be doing C3 before you really feel like, think like, look like, write like a national board teacher. The tree will continue to grow, and we're moving up to component 2, where we're going to be doing somewhat of a case study. Some of you will choose one child, some of you will choose 2 students, some of you 4 students. It just depends on your certificate area. But the case study is all around how you use differentiation, how you use data-driven instruction, how you use goals-based instruction and assessments to determine what individual students need. And you will be pulling student work samples over a longer period of time, like 8 to 12 weeks of time period. So component 2 then, by the time you're finished with component 4 and component 3, component 2 is going to be a breath of fresh air. You're going to say, wow, this is great. This is so fun to dive deep because the National Board wants depth and breadth. And we're going to dive deep into the study of that 1, 2, or 4 kids, depending on your certificate area. And then finally, in the end, the tree blooms so bright and so big that we're ready for C1, component 1, the testing center portion of the national board process, which is at a secured location, typically on college campuses. If you've ever had secured testing before, you know what I'm talking about. It is open from March of that season to June. So it is not open again until March of 26 and closes June of 26. It is 45 multiple choice questions and 3 constructed response items. So it's 4 tests, 3 constructed response tests that are timed and 45 multiple choice, very much like the praxis exam, if you all have ever taken that exam. Also, you can look up component 1 selected response items practice. Let's just say you are MC Gen. Look up component 1 selected response items practice MC Gen, and you're going to find things like study.com, Quizlet, quizzes, all kinds of things where teachers have put together slideshows so you can just kind of see the types of questions, which are mostly scenario based, that are on that test. And then the biggest thing to know about component 1 is it's 40% of your overall score for the process. So the left side of the tree here that I'm looking at, component 1 and 3, are 70% of your score. And components 2 and 4 are 30% of your total score. But what's important to remember is everything at the top of this tree, above the trunk, is developed by understanding and becoming the national board standards for your certificate area, and by really unpacking and knowing the rubrics that are developed from those standards. So I want to encourage you all to follow the staircase, which is going to be under this video. Go to NBPTS.org, watch your first steps video, choose your certificate area, download and read your certificate area national board standards, download and read your certificate area, the 4 component direction guides, determine your strengths and weaknesses. Is this something I really want to do? If it is, try to find others that are doing it, or come over to things like my website where there are people that are gathering together in a bandwagon fashion to do this together, and then work together in a cohort. When you are sure that you want to do this and you're like, I've got this, you're going to pay $75 registration fee to the national board. And that means I want to do this. And then by February, last day of February of the year, February 28th, you have to pay for what you want scored. So if on February 28th, you decide you only want them to score component 4, that's it. That's all you pay for. And it's $475. Now, some teachers go all in. They do all 4 in 1 year. Actually, I think that's fun, but some people don't think that's fun. I've got other videos out on YouTube about being an all-in candidate. In fact, as I've said, I've got a lot of videos, period, out on YouTube. Go and watch them so you can learn more about the process. Now, do I have anybody on the live that has a question? Hi, is it Shantae? Hey, Shantae. Yeah, and Kelly's on. I'm going to answer some questions that have already come into me, but Shantae or Kelly or Dawn, if you have any questions, you let me know. The first question here is, I'm having difficulty ascertaining what the test in component 1 will be. I feel pretty much stumped before I even begin. All right, so once again, Anna, I want you to go to that NBPTS.org certification candidate center, and then I want you to drop down in whatever your certificate area is and choose component 1. And in that guide, it shows you examples of what the test is like. Okay, now I'm going to let you know that guide's maybe going to be 40 pages long to read, but it's worth the read just so you can understand. And let's see, Leslie, I see the first component is the exam. When I purchase this, do I then get options of scheduling to take the exam somewhere? Okay, this is kind of a misconception, is that you must do the national board process in the order of the numbers of the components. Like, oh, it's component one, I have to start with component one. I just told you here in this live, I never have candidates start with number one. We go backwards. We go from component 4 to component 1, and that brings fireworks. Fireworks come when you earn certification. So I am not going to suggest C1 until you've done all of the others. That would be the last one I do. If I'm an all-in candidate, I'm going to do that in June. I'm going to sign up to do that in June. They will not open the sign up portal for that until January of 26, because I'm sitting here in June of 25 talking to you. So January of 26 they'll open it up. So you just don't want to sit and wait on that. It's the summertime. You can go ahead and get started on other parts of the process. And again, I have other YouTube videos that explain that as well, and they'll be coming out soon. Okay, I paid my $75. Where do I even start? I am lost even after I read everything. Oh yeah, I know. Yes, so once you read everything, you can't focus on everything. I think that's the biggest thing. Read it all just to be curious, and then say, which component do I want to focus on right now? That's it. All right. And that's, I think, leading to Dawn's question. On your website, you will go over the components. Okay. So Dawn, what I have on my website is I have courses that match the components, or workshops that match the components. So let's just, for example, take component 4. I have a component 4 course, which actually helps you break down the entire component into parts. I give you a 12-week calendar to get it done in 12 weeks, but you can take longer if you want, or you can do it quicker if you want. I give you assignments to keep you accountable, and you build the portfolio with me, teaching you how to understand what the national board's asking and helping you constantly connect back to the rubric, because the rubric is what we have to connect to for the assessor. And because I was an assessor in the process for national board, I kind of understand this from the backwards lens. So I take that component 4, and you have that course. And so you would focus on component 4's course, and you would focus on building out your component 4. And then if you want to be in a cohort of people, which I think is super important, then you can add on the think tank, which is $39 a month subscription. Just imagine it's like Netflix, but you've got 3 or 4 seasons of people where you can listen constantly in your car, wherever you want, constantly binge listen to their questions, their scenarios, their ideas of what they've done, and you can learn from them. So it's not just me going live, it's all of that you get from behind, from the seasons before you as well. The teachers who have gone into the think tank plus the course just find that their stress levels down a little bit more than just depending on themselves in the course, because the course is asynchronous. And then most people jump out of the think tank for C4, and they go into C3's course and jump into the C3 think tank. And then when they're ready to go to C2 workshop, they get out of the C3 think tank and they're finished with their C3, but you have the courses all year long. So you can go in and out of them if you want to. But I just find it really much easier to try to be focused into one path at a time. So I have an all-in calendar, which I'll have the team drop below this live as well. And that all-in calendar can show you how people decide they're going to do it all in one year. But you don't have to do that. You can do But a lot of people only do 2 in a year. They do 1 in one semester, 1 in the second, and then they take another year because you have 5 years to get this done. You have 3 years to attempt everything at least once. Okay? Um, and I personally don't like to see people spend money on retakes because it's expensive. If you take C4 once at $475, that's what you pay the national board to score it. Why would you want to pay that again? You would just want to do it right, right? That's what I think. Definitely. All right. And any other questions? Do you know if anyone is willing to look over papers? Oh, Dawn, you have the best questions today. Yes, we actually on my website, I think down at the bottom of the home page, go into the initial page actually, like initial candidate, and there's a place, just sign up. It says like candidate support or something. I have a list of people who actually do one-on-one reading. Yeah. You don't have to go through one of my courses. You could work with one of them, but I know they charge different rates. So that's good. Check that out too. Yeah. There most candidate support providers like to not work in a huge field like I do with all 25 certificate areas. They like to work like maybe just on C4 or just reading certain at certain time periods. Everybody has different things that they like to do as far as CSPs, candidate support providers. That's right. All righty. That's good. All right. I'm so thankful for you all joining me today on my first live ever on YouTube. I'll be back. I plan on coming live at least every other week. So good luck getting into the process. Go find out who you are in the national board and what your certificate area is and dive deep. Be curious. Nest in. It'll be fun. Have a wonderful rest of your week.